So I'm supposed to meet the candidates from NDP, Andrew Hill. He is on the riding of St. John, St. Croix. Oh, there you go. My friend Phil is here. He's gonna join the meeting. Okay, cool.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to hear about the community here supporting something so far removed. Because we often hear about things, because here in North America we're so insular from the from the oceans, right? We're on the other. You got these oceans between us, so we're so well protected from what's going on around the world that we kind of look at it as it's their problem, not ours. So hearing about these things where we're, as a community, saying, no, we have to stand up for other people as well and support other nations, other people who are suffering. It's a really good story. I really like hearing that. I mean, I don't like the story of the earthquake, of course. That's a big tragedy. But of course, out of tragedy come these beautiful stories of help, support. You know what I mean? And it's nice to hear. I commend you on that endeavor. It's really nice. And that was those kind of things I really like to see. Canadians standing up for Canadians standing up for other people who have less. You know, and I believe that those of us who have more have a responsibility to lift up those of us who have less.
Why we would like to meet you here is because you support the Palestine platform, right? Which is actually to help the Palestinian gain a statehood, as well as to stop the war by the arms embargo. Why did you pledge? What's your motivations? And
so, I pledged my support to that the Free Palestine campaign for multiple reasons. Firstly, it's clear that the campaign there, it's not a war. It's just mass slaughter of civilians. I mean, the numbers we're seeing now are over 70,000 dead civilians, and just not yesterday, but the day before yesterday, the last remaining hospital in Gaza was bombed. Bombing civilian infrastructure is not a war tactic. It's terrorism. It's terrorism, right? Like it is. It's hatred. Absolutely.
Unjustified hatred.
Right. And it's clear it's not a war. It's a blood feud. And so it's never good. It's never okay to destroy civilians, even if it's a war against an enemy. If your enemy hides behind civilians, you have to find a way to subvert that and get your enemy. And we've seen the targeting of aid workers. We've seen the targeting of journalists, right? And then they try to cover it up as well. You know, we saw that with the ambulance attack just the other last week, right? Where they killed 15 ambulance drivers and then crushed the ambulances and buried them. That is an all-out coordinated effort to hide what they're doing inside of the Gaza. So it is a humanitarian crisis. The other, so I see adding the very first step is recognizing Palestine as a state. I mean, if we don't recognize Palestine as a state,
You want to join us? Come for me.
So the very first step after recognizing Palestine, we have to end and support an arms embargo, two-way arms embargo on. I mean, Canada selling and buying weapons and technology from Israel shows the nation that we support what they're doing as a nation, as a country, as a government, right? So if we currently are supporting that through financing it, it shows that we support their policy as well. And then obviously it's a no-brainer allowing aid into the civilians that need it. They need aid to survive. There's millions of civilians there that need the aid now, and they're starving. They have no water. They have no shelter. And like you put yourself in their position. If you had no necessaries to survive, how would you would want someone to come to your rescue, right? Absolutely. That's just, and us as a democratic nation, we should be standing up and saying, this is not okay. These people need our assistance, and it's time to stand up and say that.
Make a content of this. I'm giving you this Palestine pin. Yeah.
Your card.
You know, I agree that there might be a level of courage to standing up and saying, yes, you know, I want this to end now. Especially if you are one of the parties that supports Israel, right? Openly, you know, we have two major parties that are openly working with Israel as a government. And so if you have candidates in that party that say, we don't want to work with this. It might cause international relations. But my experiences across the globe, I've seen a lot of violence, and I've seen a lot of destitution and poverty. And honestly, I just don't think it's right in any zone anywhere on Earth. War is not the answer. War is never an answer. Diplomacy is the answer for every solution. And that's why I stood up. I don't really think that if people don't like my position on it, that's fine. They don't have to agree with it. But it is my opinion that it's the right decision. And so I have to stand up for what's right.
So your background is in the military, eh?
Correct. Yes, I served for almost 20 years. Yeah.
Oh, that's what took you to see the world, would you say, or?
That's correct. Yeah, I saw the world through my service. I never traveled as a civilian. Actually, I never had time. I just traveled when work called, and I got to see lots of great spots on the planet, lots of not so great spots as well. But I'm really thankful for it because it really opened my worldview to being more of a human, humanitarian. Sometimes it makes people go the other way, I think, when you're exposed to violence and you're exposed to other cultures that you're treated as an enemy. But in my case, all it made me, it galvanized me to be more open to lifting others up. Because I've seen the world in poverty, and I know that us here in Canada, we live so well that we could, as a world, there's so many resources in the world that we could make it a better place together. I know we can.
To move like that.
When I think back on, really, I was the worst place for poverty was Niger. I went to Niger in 2014. It's lowest on the UN's Quality of Life Index. The average annual income when I was there was $13 American a year. Very, very low. People there lived with almost nothing. And when I came home, I had a really hard time reconciling the way we live here in North America with the way they live there in Niger. It was really difficult. And then one day, I would say a year, maybe 2 years ago, I experienced in my own hometown some really abject poverty as well. I saw a man eating out of a garbage can, and it was just it really affected me really deeply because to see it here at home, that kind of level of poverty, it was really sad because I know that we can do better. Yeah. So, I've been knocking on doors here in the riding, all over the province actually, because the riding is 10,000 square miles, or kilometers. It's big. It's very, very big. But to be honest with you, there are three major issues that have come up across the whole riding, and it's affordability of our food. Food is so expensive. Affordability of our home and rent. Rent prices in the last 10 years have more than doubled. Home prices have more than doubled. Everything has gone through the roof. The cost of living is just skyrocketing, but the cost, our annual wages, have not even gone. I think it's only maybe 5% we've gone up. It's very, very little. So the wage increases do not match the cost of living here, and it's caused a really big disparity for those of us who can live and those of us who cannot. And then the last real major thing is healthcare. Our healthcare system seems to be crumbling around us, and I know that a lot of it has to do with how we train and recruit and retain doctors, and so maybe allowing doctors to practice across the nation with a pan-Canadian license would be a good one. So we have to find ways to recruit, retain, attract doctors. We have to lower student debt to allow doctors to train, and then bolster the healthcare system through other social medicine programs, mental health systems, and I like the regional health units we have. If we can bolster those as well. And that will take action on all levels of government, municipal, federal, and provincial, working together. Otherwise, we'll see the same old, same old. I agree, and so with consultation with the Indigenous communities, I agree that we should work with every nation individually. So if one nation wants to take advantage of the minerals on their nation, by all means, allow them to do that sustainably, responsibly, and within their treaty rights. Absolutely. And if there's one nation that wants to block an international pipeline because it goes through their land, they should have the power to stop that pipeline. Absolutely. That is their treaty sovereign land. If it's going through their land and we as a nation want to run it through there, it's going to stop. That's their land. We made a treaty for that. It just doesn't make sense to say, no, sorry, we're a country now and you're not part of it because we made this treaty that doesn't. We have treaties between it, so we must consult with the indigenous communities every step of the way and work with them to make a system that works with every individual nation. We can't treat them as a monolith and say every nation gets this one thing. Every single individual nation, indigenous nation, gets its own say at every individual juncture. I don't think that an indigenous nation in Northwest Territories gets a say on what's going on in St. John. It just doesn't make sense, because that's not their nation. Their nation is in the Northwest Territories, and vice versa. So consultation starts by working with every single nation individually, and that is something that the NDP must do and would do because we think it's incredibly important. The indigenous cultures here and communities in this country, they're the ones that know how to live with the land, sustain the land, and they've lived here for thousands of years before we did, and they never destroyed it the way we did. So it's up to us to work with them to ensure that Canada exists in the future, both economically and ecologically, or else, there won't be a future or land for my son to grow up in, and that is a real threat we're facing now. As far as energy east and the pipelines, I agree with you when that goes. Fossil fuels is something we must get off of. And it's not going to be a today solution because we haven't been working fast enough to get off of it. However, I believe the oil and gas industry must play a role in this switch to green energies. And so that's where we end subsidies to big oil and gas. We start taxing them properly so that the taxes that they create, that we produce from them, goes back into green energy initiatives, green programs, so that we can start our switch from fossil fuels paid for by the oil and gas industries, which, by the way, they have been creating record profits. And those record profits we should be able to tap into to say, hey, we're using those profits that you're making to make a green energy so that the world exists for the rest of us 50 to 100, 1,000 years from now. Because if we keep at the rate we're going, there won't be a world for us to live on. I agree completely with that point. Yeah, tariffs is a real threat.
That's a big issue as well.
It is a huge issue. One thing I'll say is it has created a really unique economic time for us in Canada because we've been trading with the U.S. Mainly out of convenience. They're our largest trading partner, by far, but they're so close, and they want our resources. There's so many people there, but we have an unrestricted free trade agreement with the UK that we barely exercise. And there's markets in South America, China, and Asia that we can tap into that we barely use now. So the American government has given us a golden opportunity to open up Canada as a global trading leader, and maybe even start this switch to a global green initiative as Canada switches to green energy, becomes a leader in green initiatives and green energy, right? We have the resources, and we could be innovators, so Canada is poised. And another good thing that we can do is, as every counter tariff that we put on the U.S., we can take those every dollar back from the counter tariffs, put them back into the Canadian EI system, so that any Canadians that are affected by the tariffs, losing their jobs or laid off for whatever reason, we can give that into the EI system, bolster the EI system, so that people get their benefits sooner and more benefits are covered. We're in a unique situation. It's not going to work itself out quickly, but we can come out of this stronger than we were before. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. As you said, yes, the weather is unideal, but I think it helps to accentuate the point that we're trying to make here. We're here to stand up for what's right. Even though the weather might be bad here, it is not as bad as the conditions that are being faced in Gaza today, right? So, firstly, I wanted to talk about the points that we want to emphasize in Parliament, right? We want to put a two-way arms embargo on Israel. We want to end the involvement in illegal settlements. We want combat anti-Palestinian racism and recognize the state of Palestine and fund Gaza relief efforts, including the UNRWA. And that's not the end of it. Should I be elected, I would put a petition into the House of Commons to end this and call this a genocide. Formally call it a genocide. It is clear it's a genocide because it isn't a political point. Looking just at it, by definition, the targeting, systematic targeting of hospitals, schools, homes, the killing of families and children, just by definition, this is a genocide, and it needs to be stopped. Canada needs to be a leader, step and say, enough is enough. We must do what we can to stop this. Thank you for coming today. Free Palestine!
Just voted, and I voted the way I asked myself the question, how would Jesus vote, and I voted that way accordingly. Thank you. Have a good day.